successful life coach is both an honor and a curse. I get to watch my clients feel so motivated by my wisdom that they not only go off to very successfully chase their dreams, but their once sent checks become replaced with wonderful life updates and proof that my manifestation rituals really do work when I'm not the one doing them. All my life, I have been really good at building others, and it helped me survive and deflect in a family that seemingly chipped at me since birth. My capacity to empower the powerless has helped me survive. But now I wonder when this supposed superpower transfers into my own self empowerment. It was a few days after the worms discussion, and Andrew's parents were in town. When it came to his father, he had a real admiration for this successful computer engineer that had been following tech trends and K-drama since the 80s. A very progressive white man who could say he both Elon Musked and Woodstocked in his lifetime. Meanwhile, Andrew had warned me about his mother, who was a maniac, according to him, a giant pile of nerves and anxieties that had overwhelmed him enough to move to Latin America just to escape her, and the fact that his ex bought a home and bounced after 9 years together. He warned me. They were nice, but could be prickly. But I had a history of parents loving me, minus my own. I simply understood, especially as a semi adult, parents are just big kids that are still consistently shocked that they had children, let alone functional ones. Moreover, life coaching had sparked in me a mutual doom and dazzle when it came to approaching others. They say every good life coach has a life coach of their own, which makes me terrible. The morning of Andrew's parental dinner, I was meeting my client Laura, a Capricorn stellium born from a wealthy family, but a mother with literal bipolar schizophrenia, an illness Andrew had simply diagnosed his mother with having, while I swore I'd gotten it once at an Ibiza club. She held a lot of grace for her mother, understanding that the sweet woman that loved her had an illness that genuinely made her feel like she could kill everyone in her life. The switch was hard, and it justified why so much of Laura's life was spent in private schools or wondering how her parents truly fell in love. Yet she refused to even mention any ill about her mother, but recognized that an unfortunate sexual assault with her ex-boyfriend had triggered her body to carry certain anxious reactions that only made her more terrified because of her mother's mental health history. The session ended and Laura hugged me, which IDK is life coach appropriate, but people have the tendency to hug me after I affirm them. I walked out inspired and curious because grace has been the hardest thing for me to learn, not to give to others and to give to myself. In some ways, my father's cons and crimes taught me that the grace you give to yourself does open doors and does protect you, even if you choose to hurt others with that protection and those doors. Yet there's also beauty to the grace you give people when you start to learn it does not have to come in exchange. The grace I showed my father often came with a debilitating clause to be psychologically assaulted by him and feel so dirty with myself for allowing it as a good daughter. Now I see love as reciprocal. Grace is what you give to those that give it to you, and understand it is necessary for your growth. Later that night, I finally met Andrew's parents, and I was shaken. They were lovely. Andrew was a 45-year-old gay white man dating another, even wealthier gay white man who had his own mommy issues and had enough wealth to leave his tech job and open an unsuccessful Etsy shop. He was born set up for life, but yet he was so bored and judgmental with it, and that oddly fascinated me. I had assumed that it is historical generational trauma that has made people restless and unforgiving, but Andrew had proven even high privilege can leave you as numb to societal scalping. His parents were perfectly normal, pretty quiet, but eager to talk, especially about random things like YouTube videos and a shockingly good list of the best taco trucks around the world. They were not as scared or as scary as Andrew had made them out to be, and the juxtaposition between Andrew's mom and Laura's only made me think of mine. On one hand, Andrew was cruel towards his mom, and his privilege only made her and most women of his life seem like fluffy nuisance. But Laura would fight to the end of her own wits to call her mother maternal, the same one that would make her stay up all night to chop vegetables in case of an apocalypse, I'm assuming a bunny rabbit one. And then she would scream at her till she cried. I wondered where I landed in giving grace to my own mom. All right, let's discuss, let's heal. So yeah, I do life coaching, and it's a very strange thing because I'm very good at it. I have a high success rate. My clients move on to happier lives, and I have said that before. I think your clients should leave you. I think I'm in your life temporarily. I just want to help you and get out. I have my own life to fix. And that's the thing about being a life coach that actually like coaches life well. It's what do they say? Usually doctors are the unhealthiest, right? A therapist needs a therapist. You teach what you cannot do. And it's so strange to have these clients kind of go off and chase their dreams and feel so much healthier for knowing me, because it proves that I have the capacity to help and build others. But why I'm not transferring it to myself is the big question. And Daddy Recovery kind of answers it. My nature is very nurturing, but I wasn't nurtured. And I think my ability to, my father would have these breakdowns and he would just get so verbally and mentally violent. And, it was like, oh, we got to coddle him, comfort him, comfort him. He's going to keep on crying and, or yelling. And I became really good at making bad people feel better. And I became really good at kind of turning tension back into calm. And I've always been good at that. But that quality of mine, I didn't see it as, now I see it could really help me thrive, but I don't know how to transfer it, because what it did was it helped me survive. And it helped me kind of feel good and look good, because obviously an asshole loves you when you wipe them, right? That, I got praised and thanked and coddled finally for coddling well the adults in my family. And then it made me feel good because it also made me feel safe. Oh, great. My dad is not going to yell at me. He's not going to lie. He's going to calm down. Woo woo. Deflection activated. But now I'm like, those are the keys to success, and how to transfer a survival method into a successful method has been really hard, because it just feels like the only time my empowerment or my ability to empower is activated is when I'm helping people through their crisis, which is what kind of life coaching is. And, I was going to meet Andrew later that night. His parents were in town. He invited a few friends, mostly men, and me. I was the woman of the night. And he had warned me about his parents. And parents love me. And that's why I said that joke. The only parents that didn't love me were my own. Parents adore me. I've always had friends that were older than me, much older than me, like Andrew's 45. Hello. And I've always been really, really good with parents. They've loved my adult humor, they love my compassion and my grace, because they're all human beings. And I think growing up abused by my dad has given me certain benefits. And one of the benefits is, don't look for the labels, look for the layers. People, we clutch to these labels: our age, our race, our religion, our gender, our sexuality. But it's what inside that really, really does matter. And that's so funny, because I think I approach people looking for what is inside. Show me your depth, show me everything about you spiritually beyond what I am supposed to see or will see socially. And I feel like I'm going on the opposite track. Everybody has learned to socially judge. I learned to spiritually judge. And now I'm learning to socially judge, because one of the things with Andrew is he was really harsh in his description of his mother. And I really went in thinking, I'm literally going to meet Laura's mom. This is a woman who's she's bipolar, schizophrenic, she's anxious, she's nervous, like using those words to describe her. And I'm like, oh my God, this woman is going to be a pile of nerves. I'm going to have to hold her over the breadbasket. And she was actually really sweet. They were both very sweet, very wonderful, a little quiet. I know that, shy. I know they wanted a chat. And I'm a really good person with shy people because I'll talk about anything. So we were talking about taco trucks. We were talking about, and I don't even like tacos like that, but I'm in. I'm in computers, Korean dramas. I know everything and I want to know more about you. And it was so weird because one of Laura's major hiccups as her life coach, and understandably so, as a woman who still feels like a little girl waiting for her own mom. Her this was a yeah, her mom was bipolar, her mom was schizophrenic. She did stuff like, I'm going to make you cut vegetables all night to prepare for a bunny apocalypse, apparently. And I call it a bunny apocalypse because I don't know how chopping vegetables, how many vegetables, where did she get, they did have a garden, but why is that prevented? Is it a zombie apocalypse? What kind of apocalypse is this? We have questions anyway. Here was this woman that would go through severe psychotic episodes and then, go back to being lovely, and that kind of yo-yo, and wondering, with that yo-yo, how did her parents fall in love? What parts of me are my mom in terms of mental health, because she was unfortunately sexually assaulted by an ex-boyfriend, and it really triggered some really bad body and mental reactions that felt almost automatic to her. What parts of me are my mom? What parts of me are my dad? Here I am in love with somebody who did that to me, who was capable of doing that. What didn't I see? So that was what we were really trying to overcome. And she was so like refused to bash her mom, refused to say anything less, but she had an illness. She was a good woman that had a bad illness. And here was Andrew, like, I'm like, we're I'm clearly gonna go meet an American Psycho. And I think that, in perspective, what I see with Andrew is that he didn't have any women friends. He really was a gay man that loved gay. He was a gay white man that loved gay white men and was sticking to his corner. And I think, and it's something that I've noticed a lot in terms of people that are really about their privilege, when they go through a crisis like a 10-year breakup, they get explorative. And that's when they could dangerously fetishize other. I'm suddenly going to look for the most Latino because I heard they're spicy, and I need different. I can't go with the same. And I didn't see these red flags in part because I think what Laura triggered in me is this redefinition of grace. When you have a parent that is either mentally ill or abusive or abuses you because of their mental illness, you know, you just are so taught as a child to give them grace. Moreover, I've said it a few times before. I had to choose between having a dad or having my own mental health. And I chose having a dad. I was a child. I had to choose between having a self esteem and having a safety and happiness and all those other things that other kids have by their nature and have it nurtured by their parents. I had to choose between that or, like saying the right things so my father doesn't verbally assault me again in the middle of a mall. And it's this, I don't, I know things got really bad with Laura's mother, but I don't have, like, I don't want to judge her or say it was worse than what it was. Like, it is what it is. Like, those were the details she told me. I'm not here. But I am fascinated in reflection of me. This, I've, now I recognize my father was my abuser. And I'm recognizing more and more the weirdness of my own relationship with my mother in terms of that abuse, in terms of her allowing it, in terms of, our dynamics and how they played into it. And I've been the Laura and I've been the, do not touch my parents. They're both I never said, I always knew my father was a bad person, but we've heard it in prior episodes. He was a lost person. Like that was the code for that the women in my father's life used for how messy and horrible he was. He's lost. He has a poor sense of humor. He's dumb. He's an addict. But he was a really good con man. He got smart when he needed to steal or, marry another woman. Um, and it's something that I've noticed with, at least particularly activates with my own mom. This kind of like, do not judge this woman for how she reacted to this man threatening her, for how she reacted to this man abusing her daughter. Don't judge her. It's the worst situation. I invite you to think you could do better. But then there are these moments as the actual victim of this whole scenario, or one of the victims, one of the bigger victims, where I'm like, I could judge a little bit. Because there is this feeling of, when does the grace I give to others cut off the grace I should be giving myself? And I haven't been in too many relationships, very, very few actually, where grace wasn't reciprocal, where grace wasn't something that helped us grow. Like, I've been in very few relationships where grace wasn't the thing you gave somebody after a major F up, a major betrayal, a major heartbreak. And that's why I was saying it's very tricky for me to understand even the term grace, leeway, patience, compassion, peace, because that's what I had to show to people who were literally maniacs, whirling dervishes of chaos. And I had to do that for my safety. I had to do that for my protection, not even for my peace, for my protection. And I want to learn grace in terms of love, grace in terms of peace. And I think you always assume that somebody who had a great life, like he's white, he's rich, he comes from a rich family, he travels the world, he's dating a rich gay man, like he's set up, leaves his job, starts an unsuccessful Etsy shop, like he's going to be fine. You always assume that privilege makes you easy going and makes you feel easy. Like, and I mean that. I think the general assumption of everybody, the 99%, right, is that if I were so rich, I would be so unbothered. You would not see me. I would be in my private island drinking my pina colada. Goodbye, senor. Like, there is this feeling of the whole point of getting not just privilege, but a high amount of privilege, the utmost privilege, is so you can calm down, is so you could have peace, is so that you don't feel so shaken, is so that you don't judge. You don't even judge others because you're so focused on you. And here was this guy that was like scalping everybody, especially women. And obviously that's misogyny, but at the time it was just like, I think I'm trying to figure out how to reapproach choosing people. And he was, I haven't had too many white friends in my life. For the most part, I'm Latina and I've been with Latinas, right? I've stuck it in my community, and if anything, community adjacent. A few Asians and a few Black people, right? So I think I chose him to enter my life in part because he entered it. I put it in the knock knock episode. You show interest in me. I'm like, yeah, sure. Take over my entire existence. Why not? I don't have a life coach. But I think I chose Andrew. Like, he chose me. He thought it was funny. He thought it was cool. He didn't have women friends. Why not? But I think I chose Andrew because I don't want to trauma bond anymore. And a lot of my most disastrous relationships came from the fact that we shared everything. We shared the same race, we shared the same ethnic background. We shared the same trauma. We shared literally the same type of familial as much as historical history. Historical history. My God, the things I say. Wait, that's right, right? Historical, or my, it's like, okay, something grammatically feels off by that. Okay, moving on. We shared the same pain. And I thought if we share the same pain, we share the same love, right? We share the same definitions of love, the same goals for love. If we share the same wounds, that was my automatic assumption. And one of the things that I think made me crash into a lot of bad relationships is this, you're so taught to hide all your pain and all the traumas of your family and all their messiness and all their horrors. And then you meet somebody and you're like, wait, your dad was an addict too? Yeah. Did he con too? Yeah. Oh my God, did he verbally assault you all the freaking time? And it's like, wow, everything that I had to hide, I could not only say with this person, I could laugh about it and I could cry about it. But you don't even realize the theme is pain. And if the theme is pain and it only stays pain, then you have a painful relationship. So I think one of my strategies that obviously turned a little poor with Andrew was just to find people who had healthier backgrounds. Like, wow, he had an exceptionally great childhood and a wonderful teens and 20s, and he just breezed through his 30s like like you you don't know what it is to have your family fight in the middle of Thanksgiving, like physically. Like there was something about, I just thought if you have been okay all your life, why would you try to be disruptive or find disruptions where there aren't? And completely forgetting that people can be petty according to personality. And, in the end, obviously, me and Andrew did not end up friends, but it was this curious moment of like, what am I doing here? Like what is my strategy didn't work because here I'm eating with the wealthy and they're quietly judging each other. And I didn't want to be in the area of judgment. I don't want to judge people. I don't want to be judged by people. It's one of my things in terms of being perceived. Like I'm done with the judgment era. She's done with the Eras tour. This Taylor Swift is moving on. And it was crazy that it was all in the same day because here I had Laura who just was so adamant that she had the best life and that she would rather say she was a personal failure than that somehow her parents hurt her. And Andrew, my God, you would have thought they assassinated him. And it's this weird, I'm trying to find balance, particularly in terms of my own mom, because it's one of the things she always told me. And it's true when you read in psychology, but it was a little more manipulative when she said it. We do judge the safe parent. We judge our parents. We judge the one that showed up for how they showed up. But rightfully so, right? Like if his mom is a nervous woman, it can be annoying and it can be overwhelming. Not everybody wants to be loved according to warning. But he is loved. And she did show up. And she did care. And I can't always say I had that with my mom. I definitely didn't have that with my dad. And Laura certainly didn't have that with her own mom. So it was just this moment of, huh, grace. Some people give it, some people take it. And some of us are just trying to do both. Check out daddyrecovery.com. Check out theandrewviewsitall.com and check out Hadleen on all music platforms. God love you.